Just before we move on, we spoke with the managing director of Break Barriers, Karen Hans, and she did give the wrong number. So the right number is 665-6396. So it's 876-665-6396. All right, we move on. So let's face it, folks, things aren't like back in the day when bullying was like nicknames, taunting, teasing, and some roughhousing. Not that those things should be overlooked. But now with the emergence of social media and kids having instant access, cyberbullying has come into play and is on a troubling rise, I'm told. Head of the Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team, Lieutenant Colonel Godphey Sterling, is with us in studio to talk to us about all that I just said. Morning, sir. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Morning, Gary.
So we should be, I guess, concerned about any kind of bullying, but is this on the rise, and should we be really concerned about this?
Yes, it is on the rise, and we should really be concerned, primarily because some of the victims of cyberbullying actually entertain suicide ideation, and this really, in other jurisdictions, lead to actual suicide incidents.
What is cyberbullying?
Cyberbullying is really when you use social media or other forms of digital communication to embarrass or cause harm through the saying of mean things or the modifying of images of persons in a way that you seek to put them down. Sometimes it's just done for likes on social media. Other times it's done to really act out something that is happening in the physical space.
Give me a specific example of something that happened.
So let us say that you were with your friends as a child and you were making funny faces and you took images. Your friend posts these images on social media. Somebody else picks up the image but then modifies the image to show you as, say, somebody who is doing something untoward and then sends this out as if it were coming from your friend. This is one aspect of doing cyberbullying. Additionally, if the person were to, for example, get a hold of something that was said or done by you, and without your authorization, publish this with the intent to embarrass you or to actually cause persons to think badly of you, then this could be considered cyberbullying. And we tend to think that it is restricted to children, but it is not. Anyone who uses social media can be a victim of cyberbullying.
Okay.
How do you monitor it, though? I mean, is it something that the response team is constant on, or do you depend on reports?
It's a combination of both. So we do monitor all the major platforms. However, there are groups, and you can be excluded from groups, even though you're doing the monitoring. Because one of the things we don't do at the Cyber Incident Response Team is invasively monitor your social media or internet presence. We do so in a very low impact way. So it's what you put out there that we actually monitor. But what you find is that the best way is for persons to report it. The challenge with reporting is that we have a fear of being seen as a victim. And oftentimes the situations that lead to cyberbullying are not situations that parents and guardians are aware of and the children wish to keep secret. And so the whole concept of a trusted adult comes into play as far as the ability to report this.
How do you make the difference between something that's quote-unquote just for fun versus cyberbullying?
So let me use two scenarios. The scenario I just painted where you posted the image of your friend and somebody else picked it up and did something untoward with it is not necessarily cyberbullying if your friend meant no harm in posting it. But the act of the other person who modified your image is cyberbullying. Now, there are two ways that this can happen in terms of remediating it. One, you can ask your friend to take the image down. And really, if there was no intent to cause you harm, it shouldn't be a difficult thing to do. The second is, if you know the person who is doing the cyberbullying, then whether getting parents involved or talking to the person to say, look, this is not cool, let us take it down, is something that you can do. Additionally, a lot of the platforms that we use, Snapchat, TikTok, all of them, have privacy policies and also the ability for you to report some of these bad actors.
And community guidelines.
Right, and they will actually take it down. But in some of the more egregious acts, it actually requires that the request comes from law enforcement, and this is where the JCF plays an important role.
Lieutenant Colonel, you said that you monitor it. What do you mean by that? So if I put out something, how you get into my space to monitor that? Isn't that illegal?
You don't get into your space, but once you put something out, if it really picks up traction, then it trends. And from trending, it goes viral. And what we look at is what is out there that is trending and what is out there that is going viral. And if it is something that crosses the threshold from responsible cyber behavior into cyberbullying or an out-and-out cybercrime, then we take the necessary steps to report it.
So let me finish my point. So you really can't see what I put out?
Not unless it is trending or it is out there and I'm following you or somebody else is following you that picks it up and pushes it out.
Okay. Give me some numbers. What kind of numbers we're looking at? This might be unfair to you because I don't know if that's where you go, but say 100 things you look at, how much of them your red flag?
So, depending on what we're looking at, there are days when we go through things that cause us concern, upwards of 17,000.
17,000?
Yes.
In one day?
In one day.
That cause a concern?
Yes.
Are plenty of things that Lieutenant?
A whole lot.
So you have a large team too?
No. Actually, the cyber incident response team is a very small and clinical team, but we have the sort of equipment and software that allows us to...
Yeah, and speaking of response, sir, so how do you respond? So if you see something and I say, boy, God put out something, I'm ready to hurt myself, what you do? You personally reach out or do you get the people who are...
If we are aware, we do reach out. There is the CPFSA, the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. The JCF, through their Communication, Forensics and Cybercrimes Division, in very serious cases, there is the Mega Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA. What we try to do is to, if it's not a crime, to get the parties involved talking and to seek to remediate it. And this is where the administration of schools come into play. This is where parents come into play. And sometimes when we do reach out, it is evident that the device that is being used by multiple persons. And oftentimes there isn't a separation.
Right, so you can't tell whether it's me or God type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Now, let's dig a little deeper because you spoke earlier of some of the harmful ideations, even suicidal ideations that victims of cyberbullying may have. How do you reach out? How do you manage those situations? How do you deal with the victims, their families, and so on?
So one of the biggest help in this is for persons who are responsible for children to be aware of their children's behavior and changes in that behavior. So when we see the posts and we see the comments and we reach out, oftentimes you will see the victim actually tweeting back or well, I probably shouldn't say tweeting, but responding to say what they're going to do. This is at the point at which we try to ensure that there is an intervention point, whether it is through a counselor, through a school, through the CPFSA itself, to say, look, this is happening. Can you reach out to this individual or these individuals and see what can be done? We are not a law enforcement agency, and so there is very little we can do in terms of enforcement. And so partnerships with the law enforcement agencies are critical to how we respond.
How can parents identify that something's going wrong? What can we look out for?
So if you have a child who is usually online all the time and suddenly they're withdrawn, they're not using the devices, then it is usually an indication. When you give a child a mobile device, there really should be strings attached. You should be able to say to the child, you are getting this privilege, but these are the conditions. So I am going to need to know your password. I'm going to check periodically on your device to see what you're doing. I am going to monitor the platforms that you go on and see how you're doing. What that does is it says to the child, you're trusting me with this privilege, but you're also asking me to be responsible. And the parent now needs to ensure that they too are responsible. Not everything you're doing as a parent, you need to involve your child. Right. And sometimes this is where a lot of it comes out.
How we get in touch with you? With the
just before that answer, which is important, final question, God forbid, if we Anyone hurt themselves because of this?
Not in Jamaica, but in other jurisdictions, there have been significant numbers of suicides and attempted suicides.
Sorry, God. Go ahead.
How do we get in touch with the
The
cyber?
Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team is online at cirt.gov.jm, or you can use our email address, jamaicacert@mset.gov.jm, or on any of the social media handles, we're there.
Thanks for coming, sir. Blessing, sir. Head of the Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team, Lieutenant Colonel Godphey Sterling.
It's World Alzheimer's Day, and we're helping to spread awareness when we get back from the break, so stay with us.